A bitter divorce ended with two people dead in their own bed. Before sunrise, a woman walked into her ex-husband's home and opened fire. America was horrified. But was this cold revenge, or a woman finally breaking apart? Welcome to Cryphion Case Files, where real mysteries come to life. This is the case of Betty Broderick. For years, Betty and Dan Broderick looked like the perfect couple. They married young. They built a big family. Dan rose from medical school into a successful legal career. From the outside, it looked like the American dream. But inside that marriage, something was going wrong. According to court testimony, the relationship had become deeply bitter by the 1980s. Dan began a relationship with his legal assistant, Linda Kolkina. Soon the marriage collapsed. And what followed was not just a divorce, it became a war. There were fights over money, fights over custody, fights over the house, the lifestyle, and the future Betty believed she had built. Dan knew the legal system well. He was a lawyer. The defense later argued that Betty felt outmatched, cornered, and powerless. So was she being destroyed by the process, or refusing to let go? Witnesses described Betty as angry, volatile, and increasingly desperate. It was reported that she left furious messages, violated restraining orders, and lashed out in ways that alarmed people around her. Many believe this was the point where humiliation turned into obsession. There were other warning signs too. Court records and reporting. From the time described episodes of escalating chaos around the divorce. Betty allegedly drove her car into Dan's front door. She was said to have ignored boundaries again and again. To some observers, she looked terrifying. To others, she looked like someone spiraling in public while losing everything in private. That divide would follow the case forever. And then came the final break. On November 5th, 1989, Betty went to Dan's house in San Diego. According to the evidence presented at trial, she used a key taken from one of her daughters to get inside. Dan and Linda were asleep. Within moments, 4 shots were fired inside the bedroom. Linda died instantly. Dan was hit as he appeared to reach for the phone. And this is where the case gets even darker. Evidence presented in court indicated that the phone or answering machine in the bedroom had been removed, making it harder to call for help. Betty later turned herself in. She never denied pulling the trigger, but she insisted the killings were not planned the way prosecutors claimed. So what was this? Premeditated revenge? Or a mind in collapse? At trial, prosecutors argued that Betty had spent years building toward this moment. The defense said the divorce battle, the affair, and the emotional strain pushed her beyond a psychological breaking point. Experts who examined her suggested she was suffering severe emotional distress. The jury was not convinced. After an earlier trial ended without a verdict, Betty was retried in 1991. The second jury convicted her of 2 counts of second-degree murder. She was sentenced to 32 years to life in prison. The story is not over. Betty Broderick remains in prison and her parole requests have been denied more than once. Public opinion is deeply divided. Some see her as a calculating killer. Others see her as the product of years of rage, betrayal, and legal warfare. But one question never goes away. Was Betty Broderick a ruthless murderer driven by jealousy, or a woman who believed the system had erased her life? The court made its decision. The argument never ended. Subscribe to Cryphion Case Files for more real mysteries.